Yes.
Sometimes I don't remember everything. Alrighty, everybody, we're gonna go ahead and get started. If you weren't here in the beginning, we do have a sign-in sheet in the back, so please feel free to sign in whenever you get the chance. There's refreshments, cookies, and water back there. And then on the table on the left, we do have some flyers and information for the things that we're going to talk about today. So feel free to grab it at any point. We're going to go over a lot of the programming in depth. We're going to go over the upgrades of the courts, lots of different things, and then we're going to leave open discussion for the very end, okay? All right, so here is our agenda. So we're going to start with just a quick introduction so you guys know who we are. We're going to go through our programs, but then Amy's going to touch on Amanda's going to touch on the court rules and regs. Amy is going to touch on the court renovations, and then I'm going to wrap it all up with some suggested court layouts and some different programming at the end there. All right, so to introduce myself, my name is Fallon Scarantino, so I am one of our recreation supervisor ones. So I take care of Back Creek Park now. It includes the pickleball programming, the tennis programming, upcoming kayaking programs, all the nine. I also take care of Safety Town, as well as some environmental education programming and basketball in the fall. I'll let you guys introduce yourselves.
Hey folks, some of you know me, some of you don't. My name is Amanda Roche, and I am recreation supervisor too. And I'm over a lot of different parks and facilities programming within Yorkton Parks. But I'm overseeing Back Creek Park and Fallon and all of our wonderful programming that goes on over there.
Hi, good evening. I am Amy Rowley. I'm the Parks and Recreation Manager. And so I am here to oversee all of this stuff in Parks and Rec. And I'm very excited about our new pickleball courts and all our renovations that are going on at Back Creek Park.
All right, so like I said, we're going to start on touching on some of our programming. And like I said, there are flyers for all of these things in the back. If you guys have any questions on the programming, we'll open that up during our discussion at the end. But if I misspeak, please call me out on it. All right, we're going to start with our fall lessons. So we have two different flyers up here for our adult and our youth lessons. So Lisa Hollingsworth, if you want to raise your hand, she and Russ are coordinating our lessons and teaching our lessons this summer. So we're very excited to have them back. So for our adult lessons, they're going to be formatted pretty much the same way that we've done it over the last couple months. So we're going to have two different sessions. So a 1 month session in September and then another month session in October. We will have beginners and intermediates. If you guys have any questions on, where do I fall? Do I fall into the beginner? Do I fall into the intermediate? Feel free to give us a call. We can help walk you through that if you are interested in the lessons. Our fee for residents is $65 for the session and $90 for the non-residents. And all the information is on there to register, and registration actually opened for our first session today. So we're very excited about that. And then moving to our youth lessons. Adults will be on Wednesdays, youth will be on Tuesdays. We are doing youth a little bit different this time. So we've noticed over the last couple months that we are hitting a hot spot with the 9 to 12-year-olds for our lessons. They're filling up every single time we do it. We have wait lists, our camps were incredibly successful. So we're trying to expand that a little bit for that age range. So we have a beginner at 9 to 12 years old, and then we're also doing an intermediate at 9 to 14 years old. So the reason behind that is we have a lot of 9 to 12-year-olds who have been returning to us, having come to multiple sets of lessons, multiple camps, and they're like, what's next? What's next for us? So we're trying to expand upon that and make kind of a little bit harder lessons for these guys. So we're gonna kind of figure out what works best for them. Use the fall as kind of our guinea pig stage, and then in the spring, if these are successful, kind of expand upon that, maybe do some advanced lessons. So we're gonna kind of see how these intermediates go this year. The reason why we did 9 to 14 is because we have some 12-year-olds who are now turning 13 who have been with us in the past, who are looking forward to coming with us again for some more lessons. And you'll notice that we are not doing lessons for the 5 to 8-year-olds in the fall. However, we are having opportunities for that age range, which I will talk about in just a minute. The fees are going to be the same for these, so it's $65 for the residents and $90 for the non-residents. And our registration for our first session has begun as of today as well. Registration for the session 2 in October, that will begin very, very shortly, so about a month from now at the end of August. All right, now talking about our awesome clinics. So we still have our adult clinics that are scheduled. So those are scheduled for August 18th and September the 22nd. So those are still rolling. Our registration is open for those. But we have some awesome new ones that we've come up with. Lisa and Russ will be teaching these as well. And then Dave Blake is going to be doing some helping in the back here. So for our 5 to 8 year olds, like I said, our lessons, they were successful. However, we're trying to cater a little bit towards that age and make it a little bit easier for these guys. So we're offering free clinics, okay? So we have 2 of them scheduled. So we have one on Thursday in September, and then a Thursday in October. These are entirely free. They will have to register online just so we know how many kids are coming. But like I said, we're trying to do something a little bit different with that age range, make it a little bit more fun, throw some games into it, as well as team building and different skills. And then like I said, we still have plans for the winter and plans for the spring, kind of using this time to figure out if this is the right path for this age range. We are also going to be doing our very first team clinic. So the team clinic is also going to be entirely free. It is one Saturday in October. So this is for ages 12 to 17. So I'm sure you guys have all seen that we have plenty of teens that are coming out and playing pickleball now. It's becoming just as popular with the younger ages as the older ages. So we're trying to offer something for them as well. Just again, to try to figure out if they want to come out and sign up, and then if we want to do lessons for older kids or tournaments for older kids, things like that. So we're kind of trying to figure it out right now by offering these free options. And then the most exciting thing, which I hope everybody's so excited for, because I am, we are going to be doing some skill nights. So starting with our left, so we are going to be doing some pickleball family nights. So this is starting at the end of August. We wanted to make sure all the courts were open and ready to go by the time we kick these off. So family nights are going to be open to families and beginners, where they're going to be invited out from 5 to 8 p.m. So that way they can play pickleball with other families and other beginners, especially people who maybe aren't as comfortable mixing in with people of higher skill level. I'm also looking into getting some food trucks and different activities for kids that can accompany these nights, kind of make it a whole night for the entire family. But like I said, Thursdays running from the end of August to roughly the beginning of December, that time frame is going to be dedicated to our families and beginners. So on the flip side, we're also going to be doing advanced nights. So it's kind of the same premise. So we're going to be kind of shutting it down to regular play and then inviting out more advanced players. So we're kind of aiming towards like the 4.0 and higher players for this, so that way everybody has a chance to play with higher skill players as well. We have quite the marketing schedule for this. Our lovely ladies, Emily and Sabrina, have been working really, really hard on getting these posted online and on Facebook, social media, so we're hoping to get as many advanced players out as we can and then see how this goes for the fall. So this is the first time that we are trying these, so we're going to see. We welcome feedback as these get kick-started. We are definitely looking into some intermediate nights as well, maybe some other themed nights, some other glow parties, things of that nature. So, but we need your feedback too. So keep all that in mind as we're talking today. If you have any other ideas, even if you're not comfortable speaking up right now, I actually have a bunch of comment cards in the back. So feel free to fill one of those out. If you are seeing something on here that you love, tell me about it. If you're seeing something or you're not seeing something, tell me about that too, so that way we know where we're planning our future programs. All right, so that's going to wrap it up for the programs for now. Like I said, if you guys have any questions, we will have a Q&A here at the end. But right now I'm going to toss it over to Amanda to talk about some of our new court rules and some goodies that she just bought.
All right, so we do have a couple of new things coming out to the courts that I wanted to share. One thing in particular was inspired by Pam's lovely creation, and hopefully this is kind of an upgraded version that hopefully will be successful. It's called a bat towel, and it's BATT. And it's big absorbent tennis towel is how it started. So it started being used on tennis courts, now being used on a lot of pickleball courts. And as you can see, there's some pictures of kind of how it is. So same premise of what Pam created with the rugs and the carpets, but this one is a little bit different. And the really cool highlights about this is that it can hold 400% of its weight in water, which should be really awesome. It's mold and mildew resistant, and unlike the carpet, it doesn't have the opportunity to shed any fibers because they are a microfiber kind of chamois towel situation. And there's a foam roller that goes with it that acts as kind of a squeegee that helps to suck up that water, but you pull it behind in the similar fashion to what's already out there. It dries super quickly, and it comes in a case, so it'll be able to be hung up, but very, very briefly, and then rolled up and put in a case and put away. So that is gonna keep the court, again, we won't have those long drying times as with the carpets. Well, hopefully, this is hopefully gonna be something that you guys are gonna really love. I would love to have some feedback on how this is working. I did buy 2 of them, so one for the lower court and one for the upper courts when they do open, so we can really try it out. I also purchased, as you can see, some new push brooms, so that hopefully we can, when we have those big rains, we can move that water out a little bit and use this system. And then of course we have, you may have noticed, we have those, they're hanging all over. There's some smaller towels with little carabiners that are all over. So those can be used to kind of just mop up some of the puddles, and then you can just kind of wring them out and hang those up, and they just kind of stay there. So that's kind of one of the things that are just hopefully going to improve the experience, remove that water a little bit quicker, and then hopefully we'll be able to get playing really quick. The next thing, more pictures of that lovely towel. But the next thing that I was able to get was a small Rubbermaid shed. The construction that will be out at Back Creek is going to tweak the location maybe temporarily, but its final destination, we hope, is going to be just to the right of the park office out there, kind of along the side. And what my goal is to put the bat towel, the brooms, any of the rollers, any of that equipment in this shed to hopefully keep the court nice and tidy. Also keep that equipment out of the elements, because right now a lot of it's being on the court. So we're going to use that shed. All users will have access to this equipment. It's not going to be locked unless there's some sort of reason that it becomes an issue, but for the most part, it's going to be open, so anybody can come out and use it, and we'll have, kind of everybody knowing that that's the tool shed, and all of the kind of court care equipment will be located in there. So again, love to hear some feedback on how some of that stuff is going. I know that there's a possibility that we might need to get a second shed for the upper court situation, but we're gonna kind of wait and see how this one goes and how we feel about this. So just kind of hopefully a way to keep everything nice and tidy and organized. So love to hear some feedback once we are using those types of things. Last little bit from me. So we've been doing a lot of researching on we heard a lot of feedback on what we should be putting out as kind of our rules and regulations on these courts. One of the biggest things we've been doing is looking at what USA Pickleball is really pushing out to users, pushing out to the recreation world, and pushing out to the general communities as like kind of their kind of pillars of rules and regulations and the community that is pickleball. So I'm not going to read all of these, but some of our things that we really want to highlight is that we're still going to be a first come, first served court. Obviously, we are open to the community. It is a public park, so we want to keep it first come, first served, unless obviously we're having specific events, or we're having, like when we have our advanced nights, our family nights, and obviously it changes the dynamic a little bit when we're having tournaments or frenzies or lessons, and obviously all of that changes. But for the most part, we really want it to stay first come, first serve. Always going to, unless, again, these are all like with that little asterisk of, unless we're having a special event. We want to always try to keep the games, 2-11, win by 2. That's, again, per USA Pickleball guidelines, that's kind of what everybody is pushing for. So we're going to try to keep that as well. And one of the biggest things is our paddle rack system. We know that we love the paddle rack, but we're trying to fine tune what the paddle rack system looks like and what the court system looks like to get the best use out of the courts, right? And of course, we want to encourage feedback on that. Some things we just wanted to mention about the paddle rack system is that, and as we move forward, when we have the upper courts, we will have additional paddle racks that will be up there as well. And we might change out the paddle rack system just a little bit in the coming months. I bought a couple of smaller ones that we'll be able to use as well right now because we just have the large one. So we have a couple of smaller ones, but the biggest things is that obviously following, courtesy and etiquette guidelines is important. Making sure that when we're putting our paddle racks in there, or paddles in there, that we're following the guidelines and moving the little marker, and that we're not moving paddles. I know I've heard some things about folks moving paddles. Obviously, we want to use the marker, and we don't want to move any paddles. And we want to keep this as a really good flow. So we want to keep our warm-up times to a minimum so that we have a good flow. Now, obviously, if there's nobody out there, you can take your time. But if we have a lot of people waiting because we have amazing courts, we want to try to keep it as quickly as possible. And we also want to make sure, just that etiquette and courtesy is key. So we want to make sure that this is a welcoming environment for everybody, regardless of their level, that we are a welcoming community. And that as people learn the guidelines and learn the rules, that we are sometimes giving them the benefit of the doubt for the very first time if they're new, or when there's conflicts where, we're trying to stay as positive as we can be. I know sometimes it's frustrating, but that we're trying to stay as positive as we can. If we can give people the benefit of the doubt when there's a question about the guidelines, and guiding them to how things are supposed to be done in a very polite and welcoming manner, that's what we're striving for. So that's kind of just like the basic overview. Now, when looking at what USA Pickleball is putting out and pushing out towards most communities, a lot of them are pulling back from having a laundry list of rules and regulations and opting for more general guidelines. So that's kind of what this is a little bit more of a general guideline for folks instead of as many rules, because if the more signs we get, sometimes the more confusing it gets. So we're working to fine tune what those signs will say and where we should put them to better impact how people are receiving that information. So if anybody has any feedback on that, I would love to hear that. We're slowly working on that to make sure that we have the most appropriate signage in the appropriate places. Now we are changing some of that, those locations of some of those signs because of the construction. So some of the signs that are by, that would normally be by the main entrance to the pickleball courts, will be changed and moved over to those side courts as we have some construction over there, or side entrance, I should say. And then as we go through this process, again, we'll be looking for feedback. So if anybody has any questions, feel free to let me know. And if you have any sort of comments, or if you want to add to our comment cards about, maybe a rule that you feel like we really should have on our side, or something that you're just feel very strongly about, I'd love to know that as well. So, yes.
Two things. One is, so the guidance that you guys have out there now under the pickleball rack, as far as 2 up, 2 down, is that being removed?
We're evaluating all of the signs that are out there right now. It is not going to be removed right this moment, but we're just evaluating what is the most appropriate signage.
So, and then on there it says less than 4 players waiting. A suitable number of players will stay on the court to fill the court with 4 players.
If there's no paddles.
I'm not.
If there's no paddles up there.
Well,
So
it says less than. It says people are waiting.
So it says if less than 4 people are waiting, then obviously that means there's probably no paddles in the rack. So if you wanna,
There should be 3 paddles on the rack.
but if there aren't any, if there's less than 4 people, then obviously they would join on the court. But if there's no other people waiting, then there's not the need for the waiting.
I think I'm confused with
Okay.
what the expectation
And
there is.
maybe we need to clarify that. So I can look into maybe a better way to say that.
But you're saying the four players that have played those 2 games, will all 4 leave the court, and 4 new players, if that many are waiting, will go on.
Mhm.
That is different than what we do now, and that's why we want to clear it up.
I think that would be, I mean, that's kind of what the guidance is from USA Pickleball, but again, if we see it, that it needs to be different, then we can definitely evaluate that. And again, that's the guidance from USA Pickleball. I think the goal is that most of our guidelines are for when we know we have a lot of people. So I think it's kind of, to some extent, intentionally left slightly vague when there aren't a lot of people, because it does allow for the, people to stay on longer if there's not a ton of people waiting. You can play maybe more games if there's not people waiting, or one court rotates and then everybody else can play maybe 2 or 3 games versus having, to kind of pay as close attention to the paddle rack. But obviously if it's busier, you have to pay closer attention. I think that's kind of more where it goes to the appropriate number, where it just it's leading it a little bit more up to interpretation. But if we feel like that's a confusing phrase, then we can work to clarify that.
We pulled this stuff directly from the USA Pickleball website as well, so it's not something we just wrote.
So, but yeah, if it seems like it's confusing, then we can look into that and see what others are using verbiage, and then if it needs to be tweaked a little bit, we can do that. So, yes.
Yeah, normally, court time limited to 2 games, 11 by 2, or 2 games, 11 by 2. So, the way we do it right now, normally we do 1 game to 11, and then we exit. We don't do 2 games.
That's okay, you can do that too. 1 game is fine.
If you, I mean,
But you can do 2, I'm just saying that's what.
What that stops,
yeah.
Group normally
you know, what that
does.
stops is 2 people that stays playing together all the time, not splitting, but they play together and they're winning every game. They can win 2 games and they gotta get off the court. That's what that's saying. Which is fair.
Like I said, if we need to clarify stuff, or we need to go back, then we can look
Okay, I
at
got you. The way you explained it, okay.
And we'll open for additional discussion here in just a minute, but right now I'm gonna turn it over to Amy, so that way she can give us some updates on the court renovations.
Okay, good evening. I'm gonna update on the status of the renovations at the courts and the Total Back Creek Park. So as far as this, unfortunately, we don't have any great details on the courts. They are being totally repainted and redone. So talking to the contractor who's been out there the last couple of days, and talking to Public Works, who manages the project. The work is continuing and hoping to be finished by next week, of course, depending on weather. And that's something we cannot control on that. And from last week and other weeks, we have had a lot of rain, and obviously we can't do any painting on the courts with the rain. So hopefully that's where we are, and it's definitely going to should be perfect this time by the time they finish the painting of the lines, and they're totally redoing it. I know some of you probably have been out there and have seen that they totally redone and started color coding it again, and now they're working on the lines. And then I also want to speak about what's going to be happening shortly in the next couple of days. We're going to start construction on our new ADA accessible kayak launch, which is going to take some rearranging of the parking lot, some change of the parking lot. And so the bathrooms are going to be out of service during this construction project, which is supposed to begin on August 1st, and it will take between 8 to 10 weeks probably, and that, again, weather dependent. So the bathrooms will be out of service, but we will have porta-johns. We're gonna have 2 porta-johns. One is going to be a handicap accessible porta-john that will be available for use during the whole project. There's going to be an alternate access to the pickleball courts. So it's the maintenance gate, which I know some people were wanting that to be there, but the original main entrance will not be accessible during the construction. So the maintenance gate will be in there. There'll be signage up and everything to notify everybody, but that's where the entrance during the whole construction project. And then the parking lot, 14 parking spaces will be coned off for, lay down during the entire construction. So part of those 14 spots will not be, and there will be the spots that are right up against the sidewalk by the, courts. So when you enter, you're gonna have to go down to the entrance of the parking lot and come up in between the courts and the, landscaping, the shrubbery that's there. Public Works has trimmed those and they're making a little pathway, so you come up and go right in the maintenance gate. And that will stay until that, at the very end of the construction, they're going to be totally redoing the parking lot to make it also ADA accessible. So for 2 days, a day or two, they will, none of the parking lot will be accessible. But that's at the very end of the project, and it only will be a day or two to complete that. And then, once that's completed, we'll have a whole new parking lot, a whole new ADA accessible kayak launch and fishing and pier off of there. So we're really excited about that. And then also, we have our dog park that's going to be over at the, also on the other side of the parking lot, the boat landing parking lot, which is something that has been requested by citizens for many, many years in York County. And they are in the process right now of putting up the fencing currently on that. And so that project should be done that part of the renovation should be done by the end of the summer also. So we're really excited about all these changes and improvements at Back Creek Park, and hopefully it'll bring out even more and more people up to see the park and use it for different things. But first thing that's coming up is the new pickleball courts, and they should hopefully be open in the next week, fully there, and they will be perfect by that time for the second go around. So,
The new lights are amazing too.
yes, and I also forgot to mention those, thank you. And the new light, they're also replacing all the lights with LED lights, and they're in the process of almost, finishing that. So also have that, and like she said, those LEDs are amazing, they're really good compared to what we've had in the past. Yes, ma'am.
Speaking of the lights look like they're all installed, and, some of us have to go to Back Creek at 6 because we have to get to work. Like, some of us still work during the day, so we were able to turn the lights on this morning at 6. But I wonder if there's a way that it could be to save electricity, that maybe it shuts off after an hour. Because I felt guilty that we turned it on at 6 and at 9 o'clock they're still on. We don't need we tried to push the button again to turn them off, and that didn't.
Yeah, that's not gonna turn them off. There is something we can look into, they're just by a timer, they're not controlled by, like, some of our field lights are controlled by a system called Control Link, which they definitely run on the hour thing, like after an hour, you have to go and push them again for them to turn on. But this is just by a timer, but that is something we can look into on how long it'll last without being pushed again, especially now that, they're LED lights, so they can cut back on right away, whereas the other ones, sometimes after they go off, then it takes 20 minutes for them to turn back on again. So, yes, we can look into that with them, but thank you. Okay, thank you, and Fallon's back up.
Wonderful. So we're really, really excited about all this stuff, and we thank you guys for your patience, especially as we're navigating, the painting wasn't done correctly the first time, and the lights have been a little bit delayed, so we really appreciate it, and, we'll keep communicating with you guys as upgrades are happening and as projects are happening. I've been utilizing the bulletin board, and we're gonna start utilizing that more. So if we do have construction updates, we'll not only post flyers on the fence, but check the bulletin board as well, and we'll make sure to keep you guys. All right, so moving into the last little bit of our presentation, so we're going to talk about our suggested layout of the pickleball courts. So what I'm going to go over today is a layout that was presented to us by some of you guys.
There has been no concrete decision made as of now, so we will present what has been presented to us, kind of open it up for discussion, see what everybody's thoughts are on this, and then open it up for additional suggestions as well. We really want to use this time to kind of hear what everybody has to say and hear, you know, your ideas, because we do want to start moving forward in a concise direction that makes everybody happy and that is good for all the players. So just keep that in mind as I go over this. If you have any questions during this, like I said, I will open it up for discussion in the end, and I will try my best to answer questions as I can. So this might be a little hard to read, so I'm going to go over it as much as I can. And when we open the discussion, I'll leave this up on the board so you guys can come up and take a better look at it. So some of our members put this together. If you want to be recognized, you can raise your hand. I don't want to put you on the spot. So this is a skill-based court designation. So what has been suggested is doing certain courts for certain skill levels, meaning we have 2 courts that will be designated to beginners and young families preferred. We would have several courts designated towards our intermediate players preferred, and then 2 courts designated to our advanced plus players. The court numbers, we threw some numbers in there. Those might be subject to change just depending on, you know, what happens and how we lay things out. But the quantities would remain the same. So the courts designated to beginners and young families, we're kind of hoping that, you know, that goes towards first timers and beginners, those with limited experience, those that are still trying to learn the basics of the game, so they're not mixing in with people who already know how to play full games. So you can read those a little bit more. The intermediate players are those that already kind of know what's going on with the game. You guys know how everything is scored out. And then advanced players are those who want a little bit more of a challenging game. Like I said, this was suggested to us just based on some feedback that, you know, there were some difficulties with different skill levels mixing in together and people not necessarily having the best time or the best games, or there's some, you know, arguments and things like that happening that we don't want to happen. So that's why this was suggested to us. We would still be utilizing the paddle rack system. However, we have purchased quite a few more paddle racks to the point where every court should have their own paddle rack. So if this were to be implemented, they wouldn't have to have multiple paddles shared amongst courts and it cause confusion. It would just be one per court. We would have signage being preferred, and like Amanda touched on earlier with all of the rules and regulations, this would be implemented on, you know, during regular business hours for the most part. If there are nights that we're doing advanced nights or family nights or frenzies or tournaments, obviously that might not be the case. So this would be kind of during the regular business hours when we don't have things going on. Like I said, this is just one suggestion that has come forward. So if everybody wants to take a quick look at what this looks like.
I think it looks great.
Teresa, do you want to touch on anything? Before we open it for discussion, did you want to?
I just wanted to clarify the paddle rack system. With the paddle rack system, ideally with this, if this is the scenario that we're moving forward with, then there would be a paddle rack designated for the beginner and beginner and families. There'd be a paddle rack designated for the advanced, and then there'd probably be 1 or 2 paddle racks that were designated for the intermediate play. So not one exactly per court. I saw you be like, what? Yeah, so it would be based on the skill level. We would have a paddle rack for the beginners and the advanced, and then a couple for the intermediate. And they would be color coded and labeled, so we would know. It would be pretty clear which paddle rack goes for which courts.
That sounds wonderful.
Yes,
Yeah.
so that would be, if we went with this system, that's kind of how the paddle rack system would work.
I don't think it's good. I see the need for the advanced players to have courts so they can go play advanced, but I'm probably a 1.5 or 2.0 when I can play, and sticking me with little kids is not gonna be a place I wanna be to play as an adult. And a lot of people aren't even up to the 3.0 to play all the time, and you're locking them out of the intermediate courts. But I can see having advanced ones, cause I don't wanna play with the advanced people. It's too hard for me.
Kelly, I think the concept, the thought here is to reserve, because we have young families that come out that wanna just go and play, And when you try and do the rotational process.
you block me out of the intermediate.
No, anytime you wanna, cause anytime you feel like you wanna come up, it's self-assessed, right?
It
So
sounds like,
if
it
you
sounds
wanna
like you're
play-
intermediate to begin with.
Right, I
You're
would
not a
say
beginner.
the majority of the people that play out there are intermediate,
Yeah, you're
okay?
intermediate.
Are intermediate players, and that's why, but we want to be able to make everyone feel like, we had two ladies today that came out and they're beginners, and we talked with them and said, you know, we're trying to do something like this. They said that would be great, because then they feel like they could come out, get on a court, and get with some other beginners, and the beginners are basically those that have probably been playing for a month, right? And then you kind of get up pretty quickly to the intermediate.
Well, one of the reasons I haven't come out and played since I got hurt on the court was because I can't play with a 3.0 on the button. I didn't,
I think you self-assess and you play where you feel most comfortable. And when you want to pick up a little bit, you know, stronger skills, you want to play against stronger people. Most likely, most of the time, intermediate people, you know, they'll play with anybody, right? But when you start getting to the higher intermediate or the advanced group, and there's going to be some crossover there, right? Some higher level intermediates are probably going to be playing with advanced sometime, and beginners with. It's just we want to make sure that we are welcoming to all levels, and that people that are coming out for the first time feel comfortable that they're playing with someone else that's just been playing for a couple weeks also. That's that train of thought, I guess. But the families, it may be that the families get on they're together, so they wanna stick together, right? So they're probably gonna occupy a court for 30 or 45 minutes unless another family came out. And I would also probably think that based on volume and the breakdown, it may be that beginners and young families have 3 courts, and then we take one away from the intermediate, and that's why they're kind of numbered that way, to have that flexibility. But your feedback's important, so, but we want you to come back here.
I don't wanna break my nose again.
I very much appreciate what you said. Thank you for your feedback. You can do next.
The feedback that a beginner and an intermediate gets is, the best feedback comes from the advanced people. So I feel like I'm gonna miss out on some of the things that Pam and George and Isabel and all these other people have told me. And so I'm never gonna get any better. I mean, practice makes perfect, but we all can't play every day, and I understand that, that's my choice. But I just really feel like I'm gonna lose out, because I'll never ever, I mean, it doesn't matter to me if I lose 11-1. I'm still learning from them by watching them, you know, and having them say, hey, try this or try that. And that's my only concern, is that, you know, we'll be stuck there forever.
Where are you putting yourself, just out of curiosity? Where would you be classifying yourself out of curiosity?
I think I'm an intermediate player.
And so am I. So I'll still be on the same course you are.
You and
I am.
I think what Pam's trying to say is that the intermediate players are the biggest range that you're gonna find on the pickleball courts. You're gonna find people that just got to 3-0 and people that probably should be in the advanced group. But they're all playing as intermediates. And if you wanna play with any of them, all you gotta do is get in there and play. You know, so if you're gonna get up where the Grand Slammers were playing, you probably don't wanna be there.
Thank you for your feedback. I saw a hand back here in the orange.
The courts have to be left empty if there's no one in that category there.
No, that's why we're using the labeling of preferred, because we obviously don't want to see 15 people in line for advanced courts while there's 4 intermediate courts open.
Right,
So,
right.
you know, that's why this is a guideline to follow, this is preferred, there will be some gray area, but we don't wanna see a big line of people waiting while there's courts
And
open.
the follow on to that then, so there's 4 advanced. They get to play all day, well, 80 of us have
That's
to
just
rotate.
Just two.
4 people.
He's talking about one court for 4 people.
They get to play 8 hours straight, while the rest of us are waiting for courts. The answer is yes, the way it's presented.
Yep, so that would be it, but I appreciate your feedback, because that is a good point that we wanna take note of.
Yeah, I think also the other thing too with this, the way it's set up is us monitoring and see, you know, is this the right allocation of courts for the right level of skill? And then changing it is, you know, changing it as we feel that we would recommend to say, hey, you know, we need another advanced court, or maybe we only need one advanced court, when we find out that most of the people that we're out there with every day are intermediate. So that's why we had suggested the majority of them intermediate, but the red writing up the top of that, which you probably can't see, cause I can't see it, basically says, you know, if, say for example, there's, only 4 intermediate courts being used, but there's more families, they can use those intermediate courts and then use them, and then once, if there's a wait, people are waiting to play intermediate, then they finish up their game and relinquish that court so that the intermediates can keep, you know, rotating, so we don't have 10 or 15 or 20. And, you know, with this number of courts, we may not even have.
Thank you for your question. I'm gonna go right here and then I'll come back here.
Okay, so this is all self-regulating. There's nobody, the police are not gonna be out there. So we're gonna be very friendly with each other and self-regulate, and so you shouldn't have to worry about whether or not you can play on a court, because these two are advanced. If there's courts available, you put your paddle in the rack and you play. And it's not gonna be a hard and fast rule, is what I would say.
I don't really expect it to change any more than what we already
Yeah.
experienced, except for it gives beginners and young families and advanced that group an opportunity to play amongst themselves and know that they can go there comfortably. And
Thank you. You're back here.
I got a bunch of things, but I'll send it to you an email, I'll bring them up as well. So, one thing in line with Dave's question about self-regulating, I mean, pickleball and the courts down there is the biggest thing that York County's had, for adult recreation, not just, and sometimes teen and youth for a long time, so it's not, so the question is, at some point in time, will you be putting some staff down there to help with some things? Maybe sell some balls or do something to that effect, sell some Gatorades or something to keep them busy, so that's a question to consider.
And we are working on that as we speak.
Okay, and then, and deal with any disputes or questions about play and what have you. All right.
Yep, so as of now, our plan is to, especially as we kickstart all these new programs, we're gonna evaluate the hotspots. So obviously, you know, first thing in the morning, that like 7 to 9:30, 7 to 11 time frame is very, very busy. We kind of have a lull in the middle of the day, and then we get busy again in the evening. So we're kind of evaluating a new staffing plan right now. We did just hire quite a few new staff members to be working out at Back Creek Park. I'm sure you guys have been seeing a little bit more people out there, more than usual now. We have been scheduling it quite a bit. So the plan is once we get these new hires up and under the belt and trained and everything, we will have more staff out there consistently to help and regulate whatever rules and regulations we put in place.
And then, I got a bunch of them, so how many courts are you gonna designate, have you considered this, for advanced pickleball nights, or family nights? Are you gonna designate 2 courts set aside for this, 4 courts, or whatever? Because I know that's a work in progress, but you gotta figure out what you're gonna designate for advanced, because those players are out there every night.
Yep, so the plan right now is to use all but 3 courts for those nights. So we'll have 3 courts that will still be dedicated to if a family comes out, you know, but the rest of the courts will be dedicated to whatever that theme is. So that's the hope, is to have 9 courts designated to the theme and then 3 courts left over for anybody else to still come in and play.
Probably won't have 9 courts or 4.0 players out there, just.
And we'll see, and we'll evaluate that as we go. Like I said, our main goal behind this fall is to kind of figure out what works and what doesn't, and then plan better for each.
Okay, and then, a couple more things, you got, a couple things where you're not, you got fall youth pickleball skills workshop. There's no fees mentioned in that, I'm just curious, is there, I mean, you're gonna have to, skills workshop, you gotta have instructors out there, so I don't see any fees on that one.
We left it entirely free because we're trying to give free opportunities at that age range. So all they have to do is pre-register. And
Okay. And then you got an open play for teens on Saturday morning. It says they'll work on pickleball skills and whatever, so you would need an instructor for that too.
Yep, we will have an instructor and that will still be free.
Okay, and, let me give you a couple, just one or 2 programming ideas. So a lot of people don't know their skill level, you know, right? And just self-assessed. Why not have, because USAPA puts out a sheet that says this makes you a 2.5 player, this makes you a 2 whatever. Why not do a night, charge $5 a piece or whatever, get some people out there and let some of your instructors sit there and rate them on that criteria and say, this is what you need to work on to become the next level, or whatever. That's just a thought, because I think you get more people attending that, to kind of get a feel for where they really are in their game.
Yep, I appreciate you saying that because we actually are planning on doing that.
Right.
And we are, starting with our lessons for both, youth and adults, so at the end of the lessons, we're going to kind of go through and rank the players. We're gonna start with that, kind of work out our kinks, and then we would move towards something for the public for that, so that is our number.
I think you're gonna lose some play here in the fall because school's gonna start back, and kids gotta do homework if they're doing lessons, teenagers same way, they're probably not gonna come out as much, but, so, that's just a couple things that I've had, and, just, again, it's a work in progress, see how it goes, so.
Very good, thank you for your feedback. Right here.
Is there gonna be more seating?
So that is an Amy question. I do believe the bleachers are being moved during the construction. I think you can touch on that a little bit.
Yeah, the bleachers are gonna have to be moved during the construction because when the, new parking lot and the, kayak launch is completed, it's gonna look, the parking lot's gonna look a lot different and stuff. And we're not gonna have that space where the bleachers are currently, so we're gonna have to move them a certain place. We're still working with Public Works and the company that is doing the kayak launch and doing the parking lot to decide exactly where their bleachers are gonna move to.
Well, I'm talking about benches on the court.
Yeah.
Oh, on the court.
Cause there's like almost no seating.
Right.
The people who are waiting,
Yeah.
usually just standing around next to a court, or they're sitting on the ground.
Yeah, there's something to think about if that's something we need. This is the
100%.
first step hearing of that, but we definitely take it into consideration and we'll have to look. There's not a lot of room for seating, but we probably can get some seating added.
Yeah, there's a few courts that have conventions.
Yes.
I thought those black marks next to the, net posts were conventions.
They are.
So exciting.
They are, yeah, so, but that's the kind of feedback that we need today, so thank you for saying that, because that is something that we can take into consideration, especially as we're moving forward with all the upgrades that we're doing. If we find the need, once the courts are open, that there's more people, then we can definitely look at that.
And if you do put in more benches, there should be consideration of where on the court you're gonna place them.
Yeah.
They're sort of out of fire.
Yes, yeah, bro.
We got one tree.
Yeah, and
They'll come with shields.
I will add that, when doing a lot of this research, we did find, kind of the general guidelines from USA Pickleball is that benches shouldn't be on the courts. They should be outside of the courts because of that reason. And because of the congregation towards, on the edges of the courts that could impede play. So but we'll look into what fits our courts the best and where we might look to put some benches and some other.
Yeah, they usually have alleyways in between the courts, so that you can have a bench. Obviously, this doesn't have alleyways, so.
Yeah, so we're at the mercy of the court design, so we have to work with what we have, but yeah, we'll definitely look into that, where we can put it appropriately.
And I think one thing we can look at also in conjunction with that, on the upper courts, you have that side entrance, right, which is the main entrance, and you do have a set of stadium seating there. Or as we talked before, on the lower courts, if we could use start using the side entrance, which we will be during construction anyways, consider that on a permanent basis and having the gates open out, then we might be able to do something like that too.
Okay. So that's something we can definitely look into, especially once the construction is complete, then
Yes.
we can see the road we have to work with for sure.
Anyone else, please? Even if it's something positive, something love.
I have a concern with parking, what's the plans for that?
I mean, can we park on that road on one side and maybe put no parking signs on the
Yeah,
other side?
and I'm sure that, and I have background in Back Creek back in the 1980s or 90s when it was a big hub for tennis and there was a lot. We would have at least 3 tournaments a year out there, weekend tournaments that had hundreds of people there, and they were parking. Yes, they park along the roads and stuff like that, and we may have to put some no parking signs in certain places, but we will be able to do that, and that will be addressed too as we see the traffic and the number of people that are there. And obviously, if it needs to be addressed immediately and stuff, that'll speed up the process of getting that. But we won't know until, we get them open, and the whole park, all of the renovations and additions that we have going on at the park with the dog park, that won't really add to the parking near the courts, but the kayak launch could add to some even more. But yes, we're definitely continue to evaluate that and see what we're gonna do from going forward.
Okay, you were looking for comments. I love living in York County. I love pickleball, and I will tell you, I took beginner lessons with my husband as a way to reconnect after being empty nesters. And we took lessons with Russ and Lisa, and last summer, my husband's lost 80 pounds. He started with pickleball. I have met wonderful friends, and I love pickleball, and I'm so excited that York County is investing in recreation for us to meet our neighbors more, and it's just such a wonderful thing. You don't have to be physically fit to be able to do this activity, and I love the idea of having some designated beginner courts because after I took lessons, I was intimidated with the pickleball rack. I was scared to be hit hard by the ball, and I will tell you, even with the intermediate thing, to address your concern about not learning from the higher ups, my husband is an advanced player now with just a year of pickleball experience, and he loves to have 5 or 6 hard games where he can hit the ball and not worry about hitting a female hard or someone in the eye or something. But he loves, after he gets that hard cardio in, to go to the intermediate and play with the intermediate players still to work on certain techniques. So I don't think you're gonna have to worry about not being with the advanced people, because he loves, after, he goes at 6 o'clock in the morning to have some hard games with some guys, and then he goes to the racks when it starts getting busy to play with everybody. He likes to play with everybody because he feels like he can always learn something from somebody or work on certain techniques. But I just wanted to be positive that I love pickleball. I'm out there every single day.
Sun up to sundown.
And I love that York County has such a great community. I mean, I see volunteers out there blowing off pickleball courts, drying them, teaching the new people. And I love that you guys are trusting us to go whenever we can, because I know there's a few gentlemen that have to be at work at 8 o'clock, so they're out there at 6 o'clock in the morning, get their exercise in, and then go to work. And I love that just all the new ages are starting to be out there. I mean, I have fun if I go in the afternoon and I'm playing with these high school kids. I'm not used to how they play, and I'm learning from them, so I just wanted to say thank you. I really am thankful that York County is investing taxpayer money into these courts, because I think it's gonna really build some good friendships and community, and we're gonna have older people mingling with high schoolers, and I just love it. So,
Thank you. Yes, it's like right here.
I don't know if everybody here is aware or not, the family helped me set up for the kids from Special Olympics in York County. The reason we did that is because this year was the first year that they could compete in it, and they couldn't compete because they didn't have anywhere to play. And Back Creek opened up, thanks to Fallon, and you all know who you are that helped the kids. They're not kids, they're all adults, but the athletes absolutely love Back Creek, and they love everybody that they've come with, and I just wanted to say thank you.
Are you still gonna be doing Monday nights with the Special Olympics?
Just as
Okay, cause I was noticing this thing that says.
Yeah, this is what starts it.
Yep,
So,
yep, we've got them booked for the end of August, and then we'll touch base for the fall, so. All right, anything else? Anybody at all? All right, guys.
I guess one thing I would do, you're on BC Thinkers. And if you would post stuff like that, or send it directly to me or Lisa to post, I think that would be helpful, because communication is key as far as this type of stuff. And I know probably the first Monday night, especially on the advance, if you're planning on reserving 9 out of the 12 courts, unless they're coming out of the woodwork from all over the place, I mean, I can't imagine you needing that many courts, so.
If you did 3.5,
Well, bases.
if they did it those nights, lower the skill level a little bit, you might get more players.
Or if you only need 4 courts, and you'll, like you said, after the first couple times you do it, you'll know what the
Yeah,
demand
this
is.
is gonna be a learning curve, especially the theme nights for everybody, so, you know, if we try it one way one night, we realize, hey, we're not having that many people, it's also gonna grow. So as the word spreads, we might have more people that come out, so I welcome the feedback, and we're gonna go as we can. And like I said, the most thing I'm excited for is, our new marketing. So Emily, wave at that. Say hello. She's back behind. So Emily and Sabrina, they work, within our admin staff, and they do a lot of awesome work with marketing. And we have since taken a good route in Facebook and social media marketing. It's kind of newer to us over the last year or so. So we've kind of really taken root in that. So if you guys have not yet, I don't know, it's up there, I'll put it up there in a little bit, but follow York County Parks and Rec on Facebook. We are and share out everything. So we will be posting in the Dinkers group. I am, like I said earlier, going to be using the bulletin board way more and updating that bulletin board. So keep your eye on that as well. But if you have a Facebook, please share things out. If you have personal pickleball groups that you're a part of, even if it's just cute Virginia pickleball or anything like that, please feel free to share our flyers out, because we are, like I said, we're a growing program and we want to get as many people out as we can. Thankfully, we have a lot of great contacts, not only at the Y, but with Gloucester and a lot of surrounding counties. James City County, we were talking to a lot. So we're trying to spread the word, you know, as much as we can, but we will be spreading the word a lot more within the internal group as well. Yes, ma'am.
Well, so along those lines, like this one you have right here, you talk about the advanced people on Monday nights. I think you need to caveat it, but there are gonna be courts available for other people, like the 3 courts you're talking
Yes.
about. There's nothing that says that on here, so somebody may read this and they may not go Monday nights because of that. So just a thought, like if you send it through Pam or Lisa, they would probably put that on there, you know, so everybody would know, all the courts are not reserved for this particular thing.
Yep.
But most of them are, until that changes.
Yeah, absolutely. We can add that into our website as well. Yes.
You already talked about tournaments.
Oh, I love that. Yes, absolutely. So I would love to do tournaments. A little bit more of my background, I've been in Parks and Rec for quite a few years, so I do have a little bit of background in planning tournaments, even some pickleball tournaments. So I would love to do that. More than likely, it will not be until the spring, just because with opening the new courts and implementing all these new things, I didn't want to throw too much at y'all at once. But that is definitely on my radar. We have a lot of great partners, not only our instructors, but some external partners that have been coming to us wanting to use Back Creek for tournaments. So that is something that we would definitely love to really look into come the spring. If there are specific things you want, whether it's a tournament, a frenzy, a theme night, like I said, put it in the comment cards, because I don't know until I hear it. So if y'all have all these ideas, please let me know and I'll try my best to implement as much as I can. All right. So we'll go ahead and close up our discussion then. To wrap it up a little bit, we welcome a lot of feedback. So like I said, even if you weren't comfortable speaking in front of the group today, please feel free to fill out a card. I also have my business cards in the back table. So if you want to write me an email, give me a phone call sometime this week. I am out and about quite a bit, so if I don't answer you right away, I will return your call as quickly as I can. Feel free to put it in there. There is a little basket. Put it in there. And we will be posting as much information as we can as we make these decisions. Obviously, we're still waiting for the courts to be open, so we are hoping to make some final decisions over the next little bit. We have meetings with community services as well as public works, and then internal meetings as well to kind of solidify all this stuff. So we all thank you so much for your time today. And as we make these decisions, we will be sure to let you know. And please keep giving us your feedback. We need it. So thank you guys. Thank you.